Good morning and welcome to Sports Central, brought to you live and exclusive on Spectrum Television, all the way from the hills of Ibiakured in Gotun State, Kwaibu. Quite excited to be back in the screens. It's Wednesday midweek and we've got lots of exciting stories from all the corners of sport. Talking about tennis, the Indian Wells still up and running at the BNP Paribas Open, and top superstars looking forward to do the bit they can. Yannick Sinner yesterday started a rivalry with Joao Fonseca, then at 7-6, 7-6. A very intriguing one. The very first meeting between those two young superstars, and a lot of people are beginning to postulate this might be the beginning of some enthralling rivalry we could have if they can keep up the momentum. We'll also look at the female category where Victoria Mboko had to win to progress and set up a meet with Arina Zabalenka in the next round of the Indian Wells. We'll also look at what's happening in the world of basketball, where the Tigers of Nigeria beginning their World Cup qualifying series later today when they face Colombia. Remember, it's just a warm-up, tournament for the Tigers, as they have already qualified for the World Cup proper. So it's just been used as a preparatory ground for girls. We'll also look at the world of football, where last night, the holy grail of European football, the Champions League, was upon us, and we had lots of games. Atletico Madrid had to wall up Tottenham Hotspurs 5-2. Igor Tudor can't seem to catch a break. We'll also look at what's happening with Atalanta. Italian teams all being very dismal in the Champions League this particular season, beating 6-1 by Bayern Munich at home. It shows that maybe just a step above the rest when you compare the Italian teams and the rest of the world. We'll look at all of these stories extensively when the show begins in full. But before that, remember you can follow us on all social media handles. Go to Facebook, follow us at Spectrum TV Live. Go to YouTube as well. Hit the subscribe button. Go to Xfilm on his Twitter, go to TikTok as well, and hit the follow button. You can also follow me at Fonobongitin at Facebook, and we'll do well to connect on an even closer level. We'll take just a quick breather now. When we're back, the top stories for Sport Wrap-Up. Now we'll start with table tennis, where Nigeria's table tennis star Quadri Aruna is still searching for his first win in the WTT series this year and remains winless in 8 consecutive WTT matches after a 3-love defeat to France Felix Lebrun at the WTT champions Chongqing yesterday. Aruna faced Lebrun in the round of 32 at the Blue Match Biotech Pilux ACM Arena in China, but succumbed to the 19-year-old's firepower in straight sets, losing 11-5, 11-6, and 11-3. Defeat means Aruna will continue to wait for his first win in the WTT series, with his last victory dating back to September 2025 when he beat China's Wang Yuzheng in the round of 16. Yesterday's meeting with the crowd. In 2 thrilling sets full of firepower, Sinner stood tallest in the clutch moment to advance to his 3rd quarterfinals in Indian Wells. In a 7-6, 7-6 victory, Yannick Sinner served 3 set points in the opening set tiebreak and later brushed off his failure to close out the match from 5-2 in the second. The Italian ultimately clinched the win with a late surge in the second set tiebreak, drawing first blood in what promises to be a captivating ATP head-to-head rivalry for years to come. The number 2 player in the ATP rankings has now advanced to the quarterfinals in 11 of the 12 ATP Masters 1000s he's played in since the start of 2024. And with his 97 Masters 1000 win, Sinner broke a tie with Fabio Fognini for most wins by an Italian at that prestigious level. Now to the WTA scene, where Victoria Mboko has already shown a knack for rising to the occasion in big matches, and she did it again yesterday night in Indian Wells. In a highly anticipated 4th-round matchup between top 10 players, Mboko delivered a commanding performance to defeat Amanda Anisimova 6-4, 6-1 in 1 hour and 13 minutes and reach her very first Indian Wells quarterfinals. It marks the 19-year-old's 3rd WTA 1000 quarterfinal in just 7 appearances and comes with her 5th career top 10 win and her 4th of the year 2026. She'll get a chance at another in the quarterfinals, where she would face number 1 Arina Zabalenka. Her meeting with Zabalenka will be a rematch of this year's Australian Open 4th round, where Zabalenka won in straight set to take a 1-0 lead in the WTA head-to-head rivalry. Now on to basketball, where this morning, Bam Adebayo had a morning for all time with a point total second to only Will Chamberlain in the NBA record books. Adebayo scored 83 points, setting league marks for free throws made and attempted in the game in the Miami Heat's 150-129 win over the Washington Wizards. Chamberlain once scored 100 points, a record that has stood since 1962. Kobe Bryant, one of Adebayo's basketball heroes, was number 2 on the list with 81. Adebayo never thought he would be in that club, but he got off to a fast start, scoring 31 points in the opening quarter and 43 at the half behind Sam Hort shooting beyond the arc. He got up to 62 points in the third quarter before cooling off somewhat, shooting under 37% from the field in the second half. He became the only player to score 70 points while shooting below 50% from the field. He was in tears as he hugged his mother, Marilyn Blount, before leaving the floor after the game. Now to football, where Tottenham Champions League campaign is all but over after Antonin Kingsley Aaron's despair proved the catalyst for a punishing 5-2 loss at Atletico Madrid to heighten scrutiny on Igor Tudor. Tudor hinted he may experiment for the last 16 first leg, given survival was a priority, but his decision to play 22-year-old goalkeeper Kingsley backfired in spectacular fashion. Kingsley scuffed clearance contributed towards Marcus Llorente's 6th-minute opener, and after Mickey van de Ven slipped to allow Antoine Griezmann to make it 2-0, a terrible start turned into a nightmare. Van de Ven passed back to Kingsley, and another miscued pass by the Czech keeper allowed Julian Alvarez to walk the ball in before Tudor replaced the shell-shocked youngster in the 17th minute on a horror 13th appearance for the club. Spurs went 4-0 down after 22 minutes when Robin Lenormand headed in before some spirit was shown as Pedro Porro, and Dominic Solanke scored in between another for Alvarez at the start of the second half. The day had started with Tottenham fans serenading old boss Mauricio Pochettino on a flight to Madrid ahead of being invited to the match by Atletico, and concluded with Tudor losing a 4th straight match to put the interim head coach on the brink after only 29 days in charge of the London club. And that's all we have for you on Sport Wrap Up this morning, but not all for the show, as we'll get into extensive analysis and conversation about all the hot shots and stories we have for you today. Make sure you stick around.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Sports Central, returning on your screens to take a look and of course dissect several stories in the exciting world of sports. Well, returning in the afternoon, we saw the UEFA Champions League last 16 tie. At the first leg of it, we saw matches that are scheduled to go down later today. Liverpool's and the slot side lost to Galatasaray, while Tottenham Hotspurs lost woefully to their opponents yesterday. And this sparks questions as regards how many English teams will be having when we talk about the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League. I am David, and I'm super delighted to be back once again. I'll be doing this with Fonabo Tina. Together we'll be looking at what's happening in the world of football and other sports. Stories and events that happens. The Indian Wells is still up and running, and with top athletes doing quite well, trying to make names for themselves and maybe stake a claim by winning this particular competition. Well, good morning to you, Fun. A delight to return as well.
Excited to be back, UT. Lots of talking points, just like you mentioned. Galatasaray, at least they're having a very good football ahead of their trip to Anfield. We saw them defeat Juventus at home by 3 goals, and now when they went to Italy, they were beaten by more than that. So let's hope it's not a repeat of what happened in Italy. Let's see if Victor Osimhen can finally progress. He's not been at the quarterfinals of the Champions League, ever since he became a pro footballer. So I'm looking at maybe the very first time for Victor Osimhen does something handy for himself.
Well, let's quickly start off the conversation this morning, quite in an unconventional way, starting off with the world of football as we have it this particular morning. Well, we start off with the NPFL, where we hear that 4 NPFL clubs will be getting 559 million naira as CAF windfall. Well, if you actually recall, just recently we've talked about CAF increasing prize money for winners of both the CAF Champions League and the CAF Confederations Cup. It didn't just end there, as CAF has also increased the money of participating teams in continental assignment this particular season. Well, aside from the PS prize money, we hear for the CAF Champions League winners, they will be earning $6 million. That means a 50% increase, while the CAF Confederations Cup winners will receive $4 million, representing a 100% increase. Aside from the winners, just like I said, CAF has also increased in solidarity a payment to clubs that were eliminated in the preliminary stages of a CAF interclub competitions from $50,000 to $100,000, meaning the 4 Nigerian club sides, they will receive about 559 million naira each for participating in CAF continental engagement this particular season. Well, unfortunately, they couldn't qualify, especially for the likes of Abia Warriors and Remo Stars. They couldn't qualify to the group stage of their respective continental engagement. But 559 million naira, a huge chunk of money to develop their club sides and maybe look at infrastructural development around them and also develop as well.
Exactly. I think Patrice Motsepe is done quite well when you're talking about finances for CAF competitions. So you remember before the Chan tournament was scrapped, he actually improved the money where we had teams already pulling out and they have wanted backing. So I think Patrice Motsepe has done well at the point where we're saying African football is dilapidated. Countries not willing to participate anymore in competitions like that. But at the end of it, now we're seeing more competitions getting more because as soon as you increase the prize money, as soon as you increase the funding for a tournament, it will also help these other teams to want to participate and also do well for their clubs. Like now we're talking about Nigeria, we're struggling with bad stadiums. Those clubs you mentioned, talking about Abia Warriors, they don't have a CAF license stadium, and it's very bad. Club is expected to play in CAF competitions does not have a CAF license stadium. It's very, very sad. So with this amount of money, definitely enough. I'm asking myself, how much did the state government of Akwa Ibom State used to do the Nest of Champions? Lots of money, but you can do a much reduced. Look at some not like Bournemouth, their stadium is not up to what we have here at the Nest of Champions. I think it's about 15,000 or 16,000 capacity. You can do a much reduced stadium, but as long as it has the very good playground, it has a very good field and all of that, it's going to be better. What we have at the Akwa Ibom Yo Township Stadium as well, that could also go a long way. So it's not just about building big stadiums and all of that. These things, government, when they receive this money, they should do something that's worthy of CAF. Letting them host those fixtures at their home ground. So I'm looking forward to all of this in the next 2 to 3, 4, 5 years. Let's have something very handy for our club sides.
We're looking forward to see. It takes my mind back to Imba International last season. They participated in continental assignments, participated in the inaugural edition of the African Football League, where they also received a huge chunk of money. But where is Imba International now? They're actually struggling to escape relegation, and Brownie Day have been we'll talk about what Brownie Day said just recently about the football club. But away from that now, Iran withdrawal have actually cast major doubt on Nigeria's planned 4 invitational tournament. Well, yes, with regards to the very fact that Nigeria didn't qualify for the upcoming FIFA World Cup, they were supposed to be a 4-team format tournament, and that had it in Nigeria and Iran. But with the ongoing war in Iran, between Iran, Israel, and the United States of America, yes, the potential of them even participating in the upcoming World Cup is in major doubt. And of course, we're talking about the safety consent of players and even citizens who are also planning to watch the World Cup. So it might just likely mean that the 4-team invitational tournament may actually be cancelled, or maybe we'll also have another representative coming to standing in the place or in the absence of the Iranian national team. But let's quickly move away from that and look at one very important conversation. Well, it has to do with a former Dakar and Imba international player, Daniel Daga. But the man plays in Norway, and there have been some conversations as at yesterday about sexual assault on Daniel Daga, and he was taken to court, and the court has actually found him guilty of these said allegations put on the Nigerian midfielder. And as such, yes, Daniel Daga, we hear, has been sentenced to 6 months in prison after being found guilty of committing a sexual assault without consent. Well, even after the court ruling, the man Daniel Daga, and as a legal representative further reaffirmed the fact that the player in court said he's disappointed about the outcome and maintains that he's innocent and there were consent before those sexual advances. From a young career as such, a 19-year-old, according to reports, this is his first club side outside of Nigeria after playing about 2 seasons on loan with Enyimba International. But then being caught in the wave of sexual assault, that ensures that your 6 months entirely, yes, would be without active football. And then we're also talking about conversations of what could actually happen with, yes, this Norwegian club side. They might actually terminate your contract. However they want to do, they've got the right to do it. And this looks like it is very early in Daniel Daga's career to start having all of these legal issues.
Well, it's quite sad. First of all, it's not been played for the past, I think, 4 or 5 months ago, because the club had to let him focus on the investigations and everything. So it's quite sad for him. Now this is another 6 months ahead, and he, according to his lawyer, now they still want to challenge the case. So this might just stretched, for a long time, because when you go to appeal now, definitely more money, more time, and then what if you still get punished at the end of it? You're still extending your time. So it's quite sad for Daniel Daga. I just wish there was a way that we should be having less issues like this when it comes to football, not just in Africa and Nigeria, but I'm very sad when I see, because honestly, I don't want to take sides down, but we've seen lots of cases like this where it tends to look as if these women just want to rope these footballers into sexual assault situations, because most of the time they're not really, at the end of it, we see that it was not really a sexual assault. So it's very sad to see for Daniel Daga, but I just hope we get to have something in the coming days. His lawyer has already said you're not taking this, so he's not going to jail yet. He's going to go on appeal for this particular case. Let's see what happens at the end of the appeal. Hopefully he gets something positive for himself.
Well, I was actually having a conversation with someone when this news broke out yesterday evening, and he said, come on, as a young footballer, you've got the money ready to get married. If you really want to be married and focus in your career, should have actually come back, get married, and maybe travel with your wife to Norway, focus solely on football. We've actually had a whole lot of footballers who've done that, because whenever there are chances that comes begging, trust me, you may just be caught in the web. And whether or not you are not guilty of the offense, it might just be a normal or maybe a different interpretation when you go to court. We just wish that the man Daniel Daga, when his legal representative appeal this, may just actually have the months being cut a little bit to maybe 3, or maybe we'll also look forward to the outcome of this particular issue, but quite a sad one for the youngster from Nigeria. Away from that now, we look at concern about the Nigeria Premier Football League. We've actually had some top clubs in recent times who have been far from convincing. One of such clubs is Enyimba International. There have been conversations about Enyimba and the recent reality on the side about them maybe stepping relegation at the end of the season. It started off with the club's authorities. Yes, they've actually had several managerial changes this particular season. Former Rivers United coach Stanley Guma was at some point a coach of Enyimba International. Former assistant to Finidi George at Enyimba was also at some point the head coach of the side. So there have been several changes even in the administrative part of the football club. There have also been several changes, but one man continues to talk. A former Enyimba International player, he returned from Europe and of course came back to Nigeria to play, just like we have Ahmed Musa doing. But the man, after I think about 1 season, left the club. Brown Ideye, former Super Eagles star, but the man has criticized the treatment of players by Enyimba International, while also expressing hope that the club survives relegation in the MPFL. Well, Brown Ideye, a former People's Elephants player, said players in the MPFL must begin to speak up and fight for their rights if the league is to improve. He further alleged that some players dismissed by the club side, that's Enyimba, are still pursuing cases at FIFA over unpaid entitlement, some of which were also released by the football club with injury concerns. And of course, with several calls meted out on some of these club sides, with Enyimba inclusive, these club sides have not picked those players' calls in terms of trying to, try to help them to sort out some of the injury concerns they have with their career. So all of this, Brownie Day have said, are part of the problems Enyimba and some MPFL clubs are actually facing at the moment. And he's calling on the players themselves to start speaking out. Many players may just want to speak out, but the fear of actually being released by your football club. I mean, Brownie Day is already an established player, an ex-footballer, as a matter of fact. He's made his money in Europe, and that's why maybe he's also being able to, speak out. But for other players, it becomes very difficult to speak out at this point, and we keep seeing all of this happening in the MPFL.
Quite sad, but there's this, particular statement, people make that it's always going to be difficult for, an authority to punish a bunch of people. If it's just one person, it's very easy, to just focus their, attention on that person and punish the person. But that's why I'm saying Brownie Day is coming out to say every player should speak up. If you have issues, speak up. Because when you let just one person do it, it's easy for the club to cramp down on that player and maybe focus on the player and punish the player. But when everyone is talking, you want to release everybody? No, it doesn't happen that way. So every player who is involved, who has issues, discrepancies with clubs, should speak up. If a club is not, coming to the fore with you, so you definitely have to do that. And it's quite sad for the MPFL. That's why we see our teams not being able to. Yesterday was it that? No, day before yesterday. I was just looking at Mamelodi Sundowns. I'm looking at the South African League, Orlando Pirates, Stellenbosch. Both of these teams have players coming from Belgium. Both of those teams have players coming from Brazil to play for them. In Nigeria, we barely even have Cameroonians here anymore. At the point we had John Ofala play for us because Cameroon is just a neighboring country in Nigeria and all of that. So, but recently, how many players do we have coming from other countries to play here? No one would come. How much do you want to earn? Our currency is not even the best anymore. So you earn in Nigeria, you go back to your home ground and you have nothing. It's quite sad. So I think we have a long way to go in the Nigeria. It's not just about Enyimba. That's to show you. That's why the other day I said the fact that Enyimba and Remo Stars are suffering is not because the league is competitive. I did not say the league is not competitive. I said the fact that Enyimba and Remo Stars are suffering doesn't mean the league is competitive. It just means someone is not doing something the right way. Money has come in, and now you are a top club. What do you use it to do? You now start putting it for personal purposes. And this is what's going to happen, because when this money, Enyimba, they were the only Nigerian team that played in the African League. A lot of money. I still remember when we talked about that particular story. Lots of money came in. What happened with the money? What did they use the money to do? No refurbishment. They are told at the About Township Stadium. Still the same About Township Stadium we know till now. How many players did they buy? No player. So when you look at it, I think it shows why our league is dilapidating, and we just have new teams stepping up to the party now. The likes of Ikorodu City and all of that. But at a point, when they reach that stage when they should do more, they reach a ceiling and they cannot break forth from that ceiling. So it's just a problem with the MPFL.
Well, that's just what it is. The Brand Day is further, claim that yes, Enyimba can't be a top club side, and of course keeps signing players that have quality and expect decent performance, especially on a very consistent basis. And he further says the club sides and of course the players have to stand up and ask for accountability as regards several conversations over there. But let's quickly talk about other stories on the show this fine morning. Starting off with the UEFA Champions League, we saw across different centres. Victor Osimhen's Galatasaray side were 1-0 winners over Arne Slot's Liverpool side, and they have actually gained a 1-0 advantage heading to the second leg of this particular battle, slated for next week at Anfield. This was quite the difference. It came in the 7th minute when Mario Lemina, a former Premier League player, put the ball at the back of the net to ensure that both sides were separated by that goal. And this further, pounds more pressure on Coach Arne Slot and what to expect from this Liverpool side. We actually, Anessa, and critically looked at this game yesterday with so many excitement about Liverpool's recent, run of form, trying to pick up some points here and there. But yesterday, yes, they were not just at their best, and they were being beaten by Galatasaray. Can this 1-0 slim advantage by Galatasaray speak volume of what to expect in the second leg?
Well, the second leg is at Liverpool at Anfield, so it's going to be quite difficult for Galatasaray. Good performance, at least getting a win at home, it's always going to be an advantage for you heading to the second leg, because if you got a draw, it's going to be very difficult. The other team would come with a lot of confidence, but now you've already got 1 foot forward. If you can get another early goal at Anfield, which is very possible, we'll see lots of teams score at Anfield this season. So all Liverpool's or Galatasaray have to do is get one goal early as possible and maybe hold on to that lead. But I've watched Galatasaray this season away from home in the Champions League. They've been very, very dismal away from home in the Champions League. Bulk of their wins have come at home. So I'm very worried for Victor Osimhen and the side going forward. But Arne Slot and Liverpool have proven to be a side who were very beatable at home this season. Anfield has not really been that strong hold where we saw last season. So if a team can get it done, then Galatasaray can get it done.
Well, we're looking forward to what happens in the second leg. Away from that, we also had out a game. Spurs, Tottenham Hotspurs were being beaten by Atletico Madrid in this particular game. It was quite a game of major concern, particularly for Spurs just yesterday. We saw schoolboy errors by the goalkeeper of Tottenham Hotspurs, and I'm talking about a man who many have actually questioned the rationale behind Igor Tudor starting him. I'm talking about Antonin Klinski. He was stopped after 15 minutes of some schoolboy errors that led to Atletico Madrid having a 3-0 advantage in the first 15 minutes of this particular encounter. While the man Guillermo Vicario wasn't trusted enough, and of course we had Klinski starting ahead of Vicario. But after this hauler, the man came in, yes, after 15 minutes and tried to settle some nerves of Spurs. But at the moment, before he came in, it was actually beyond repairs. It ended 5-2 in favor of Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid side. Goal scored by Marco Llorente. Talk about Antoine Griezmann, Julian Alvarez, and the man Lenormand also scoring for the Spanish Giants. But it's been 4 games for Igor Tudor, 4 losses, 5 goals scored, and over 12 goals conceded. This is the story of Spurs and Igor Tudor.
Well, worse than when Thomas Frank was in charge, if you ask me. I always question the move to get Igor Tudor. I always say Igor Tudor, yes, he's done well with Juventus at the point, not really well, but he did some, he was commendable. What he did was commendable with Juventus, but now the English Premier League is a different ball game. He's lost 3 matches in the English Premier League. Now he's lost 1 in the Champions League. It shows that maybe this match is not just up to par. A Tottenham side, that Tottenham side that we see now, needs a very, very good tactician. They don't even have all players available. Dejan Kulusevski is still out. Madison is still out. Rodrigo. A lot of players are still out of this side. So you need a manager who knows his onions. You don't need a manager who needs everything to be done for him before he can win games. Igor Tudor looks like that manager for me. He needs things to be going well. Right now, things are not going well for Tottenham. Lots of injury worries, and he's not the man for the job for me. Atletico Madrid, for 1 leg into the next round of the competition already, they just have to hold there when they get to Tottenham Hotspur. But we've seen 3 goal leads being overturned this season already in the Champions League. So if you ask me, I would say if Tottenham Hotspur actually really turn up to the party in the second leg, it is possible to get a favourable result. First half 2 goals, then the second half you're already there thinking of one last goal.
With the recent momentum of Spurs, you think anything is possible?
That's the thing now. That's the thing. We're talking about the sports side, but I'm saying naturally, a 3-goal lead is not unsurmountable in the Champions League. You can always get back from 3 goals lead. But right now, Tottenham Hotspur are so poor. I don't think they will be able to do it at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Well, they remain just a few points away from relegation zone in the English Premier League, and if it continues this way, we may just be talking about Spurs relegated to the English Championship, and that would be so bad for this side who recently won the UEFA Europa League at the expense of Manchester United just last season. But away from that, Barcelona were also engaged in another game yesterday. Well, it actually took Lamine Yamal-led penalty in the 90+6 minutes to ensure that Barca had, of course, something, at least a draw, in that particular game. Well, this was actually very surprising because many thought with the recent form of Barca they will be able to take on a struggling Newcastle side. But many said Newcastle were the best all through the entire duration of that game. You agree with it?
Yeah, definitely. I think Newcastle were on top. Yes, Barcelona had more possession in that game, but when you look at it, every time Newcastle went forward, they were threatening with the ball. The likes of Anthony Gordon when he came on, the likes of William Musuda who started the first half. I think they were really good. And Barcelona, yes, they might progress, going to Camp Nou. It's always going to be a different ball game there, but I think Newcastle really gave a good account of themselves. And anyhow, there's something about this man, most times you say he's not doing well, he should be sacked, but then you see performances like this one, you just know he's doing something quite good there. But the question is it something that can continue? Can the consistency be there? Because now, heading to the Camp Nou, I'm very sure they would get beaten by Barcelona. But if they pull the performance like what we saw yesterday against Barcelona at the St. James's Park, then definitely they could get something out of that game at the Camp Nou.
Well, Bayern thrashed Atalanta 6-1. I know you're not surprised.
Not surprised at all. Italian teams have been very poor in the Champions League this season, so Atalanta, not surprised.
The way Bayern scores goals these days.
Without Harry Kane.
5-0 cushion without Harry Kane. Nicholas Jackson, Michael Olise, talk about Stanisic, Yama Musiala, talk about Serge Gnabry scoring for the side. And it was quite a comprehensive victory for the German Giants. Well, later today we'll see games across different centres as well in the UEFA Champions League. Arsenal, of course, are also part of our conversation. They would take on Bayer Leverkusen. Should there be any worry for Arsenal against Bayer Leverkusen, looking at the quality of Leverkusen this season and the fact that Arsenal are also pursuing something? Mikel Arteta said, yes, if you want to be a European giant, you have to prove it. So he's urging his players to go all out and prove why they are here and why they are where they are.
Well, I think it's going to be a relatively easy game for Arsenal. Bayer Leverkusen not really, the strongest of sides at this stage of the competition. So I think Arsenal have an advantage here. Martin Odegaard has been confirmed out of this side. Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba, according to team news, are definitely ready to start. Ricardo Calafori might be a doubt, but still, I think Arsenal have got enough players to get the job done. Victor Gyökeres is ready for this, and Kai Havertz as well. Trip to his former side. He played for them in Germany before making that trip to Chelsea. So definitely looks like Arsenal have got the advantage for me. I think they're looking for the quadruple now. They're chasing 4 competitions: Carabao Cup, FA Cup. They're already in the finals in the Carabao Cup. So they look at the semi-finals or finals? Semi-finals, I think.
The Carabao Cup?
Yeah.
They're already in the finals.
Oh, finals, of the Carabao Cup. So already one leg. They can see that trophy already. So now it's just about taking one step further now in the Champions League quarterfinals, and then we can start dreaming of also the Champions League as well.
Well, Paris Saint-Germain will take in Chelsea, arguably the biggest game of the night, and many looking forward to what happens with several assumptions that if Paris Saint-Germain couldn't beat Monaco in their local league, then will they be able to beat Chelsea? But Chelsea, on the other hand, have also been a little bit here, a little bit there in terms of consistency. But this is actually a repeat of the FIFA Club World Cup that happened before the start of this season, where Chelsea were able to get the backs of Paris Saint-Germain in the finals of it. Many ask questions: can they do the double in their last 2 meetings against PSG?
Well, I would say it's possible. I said it's possible. It's possible for both sides to do the double. Paris Saint-Germain can win home and away. It's also possible for Chelsea to win home and away. It depends on which side shows up. Because let's start with the host now. Paris Saint-Germain have not been consistent this season. So when you look at them, I think it's possible for Chelsea to defeat. It's not the Paris Saint-Germain that played last season, not the Paris Saint-Germain that started the season as well. So they've got a lot of loopholes in that particular team. And I think if Chelsea are ready, if they are up to the task, they can definitely get it better. And also looking at Chelsea, on the other hand, they've been pretty inconsistent. Ambrose, he's lost only to Arsenal, I think. Yes, he's lost only to Arsenal since he took over from Enzo Maresca. So you would say maybe he's got something. But then, the last game against Wrexham in the FA Cup, a team like Wrexham should be a game you should be defeating, comfortably. But they were taken to added extra time by Wrexham in that particular game. So you look at Paris Saint-Germain. If Paris Saint-Germain are also up to the task, they can also defeat Chelsea. So it's about who turns up to the party and who wants it more.
Who turns up and who wants it more? A big conversation. Real Madrid will take in Manchester City. Another big game at the Estadio Santiago Bernabeu. Pep Guardiola has told his Manchester City players to face Real Madrid with no fear. Would they have fear before? Very big question, but this is actually a game to look forward to. Alvaro Arbeloa's Real Madrid side have also been inconsistent. Same could also be said for Pep Guardiola's boys. But this is a different competition, the UEFA Champions League, and a tie between 2 big clubs, particularly in recent years. Who takes it for you?
I think Manchester City. Pep Guardiola, Alvaro Arbeloa's Real Madrid are losing a lot of players through injury. We've got Alvaro Carreras out, we've got Kylian Mbappe out, we've got Jude Bellingham out, we've got Rodrigo out of that game. So that's basically the top 4, the first 11 of Real Madrid. We're also looking at that defense line. I think Militao he's been out since the start of the season. So I think it's just Alaba and Rudiger will fit at the moment. Ferland Mendy is in competition to start this game. When you play Ferland Mendy against Manchester City, you might just get to pay the consequences of it. So I think Manchester City are in a better place in this particular tie to face Real Madrid.
Well, of course, just before we look at other stories this morning, we hear England's Kyle Walker have officially retired from international football. Well, the man is over 30. He's been playing lower Premier League sides in recent times, and he's finally cut it short just a few months before the start of the FIFA World Cup. Although many thought he would actually, still play and see whether or not he will be able to make it to Thomas Tuchel's squad ahead of the World Cup. But it looks like the man feels it is time to draw the curtains.
Well, I feel that as well. So definitely, I think Walker is making the best decision for himself. Probably should have retired after the last World Cup, but he thought he still had it in him. That move from Manchester City to Burnley for me was very questionable. He should have still stayed in Italy. Was doing quite well for AC Milan. Yeah, AC Milan. He was playing for AC Milan at the point, and then he decided to come back home for England, play for Burnley. Yeah, it's not really worked out for him this year. The fact the last 2 matches he's come off the bench. So when you look at it, he's looking at his chances now of getting to the World Cup, saying, "No, there's no need. Let me help the coach." Because imagine if he throws his hat into a race for contention now, Thomas Tuchel gets to pick him. A lot of questions will be asked, why are you picking Kyle Walker? So definitely making the work easier for the coach now. And a very, very, very good career. I cannot talk about, I think he's one of the greatest right back of all time when it comes to England. He's done so well for this English national team, as well as Manchester City, as well as Tottenham. Lots of trophies. I saw his trophy cabinet. I was like, come on, this man. In fact, the likes of Ashley Cole should be very worried, because this man is one of the best fullbacks of all time for England.
Well, the man finally cuts it quick, and how long can he actually play at club level before he says bye-bye? Well, we'll never know. Maybe the next 2-3 seasons, we may just likely see a decision be made by Kyle Walker as regards his professional football career. But we draw the curtains right here on just a football conversation. When we return on the flip side, we'll definitely talk about non-football stories before we bounce. Please stay with us.
It was finished. I'm not in there.
Welcome back, it is your Sports Central. Just so before we bounce, Indian Wells is still up and running, where Alexander Zverev have advanced in stretch set against Francis Tiafoe. The US international, unfortunately, he couldn't just stake a claim against German Alexander Zverev, and Zverev was able to get the better of him. Later, Tien also got past Davidovich Fokina to progress to the next phase of a competition, while Canadian young star Victoria Mboko dispatches Anisimova in Indian Wells, and she would face Arina Zabalenka up next in this particular competition. Lina Noskova, WTA scene, dominates Alexandra Ella to book Indian Wells quarterfinal spot. Is also a big conversation. Rather, those are some of the big matches that took place in the early hours of yesterday in the Indian Wells. So when we return tomorrow, we'll definitely look at permutations and what to expect in the next phase of the competition as regards the Indian Wells, and even basketball conversations as well. But here we hit the brakes on this morning edition of Sports Central. Thank you very much for also joining the show. Thank you very much for returning.
A pleasure as always.
But we'll do this again tomorrow, same time on the frequency, the Spectrum Television. I am Utobe David. Have a fabulous day, and bye for now.